Greetings. The goal of this video is to go over setting up Lancer and getting you ready to run an encounter without any third-party modules. I plan to create another video on setting up some of the most popular modules that people use for Lancer games in the future. I'm not going to cover getting Foundry VTT up and running. You may be self-hosting or using a third-party hosting service like The Forge, Molten Hosting, or Foundry Server. So this video assumes that you have a Foundry instance configured and you can install systems, modules, and worlds in that Foundry instance. I also assume you have purchased the core rulebook and have a copy of the Lancer NPC data, which is an LCP file. This file contains all the NPC information that is in the core rulebook, so you can create NPCs in Foundry VTT. This is also how I do things. Only in a few cases is there only one way to do a thing, so if you do it another way and it's working for you, that's awesome. The first thing we're going to do is install the Lancer system for Foundry. You need to make sure your Foundry VTT server is version 10 right now. Any version 10 Foundry is okay, but the latest is 10.312, and you should probably use that one. You can click the Update Software tab of the Configuration and Setup in Foundry and see what version you are using. On the Game System tab of the Configuration and Setup in Foundry, you should click Install System and search for Lancer. Click Install and let Foundry install this system. Now we're going to create a world and we're going to import some compendiums. On the Game Worlds tab, we're going to click Create World. We're going to select the Lancer game system and we're going to give this world a title. Let's launch this world and we're going to log in as the Game Master. Right away, we have a few dialogues waiting for us. One is a Foundry tour that can lead to other tours. If you've never used Foundry before, this might be a good time to walk through several tours to get an overview of Foundry. Once you have completed or dismissed the Foundry tour, there's a larger Lancer dialog that gives you recent change information and a welcome message. You can close this or disable it from popping up. You can always re-enable it in the Lancer settings later if you want to see it again. The third dialog is one asking if we want to install the core Lancer data. The core Lancer data is compendium data for things like frames, sitreps, skills, talents, and so on. You will need this, so install it. It may take a minute or two to download and populate the compendiums with information. Next, we need to install the NPC LCP that we purchased along with the core rulebook for Lancer. In the upper right section of the Foundry interface, there is a compendium tab. Here's where we find the Lancer Compendium Manager. If you have other LCP files from other purchases, or maybe you made your own LCP, you can come here to add, remove, or update them. Let's add the LCP that has NPC information so we can make NPCs later. I'm going to choose a file. And then we'll need to click the Import LCP button. And much like the core data, this may take a minute to install and create the compendiums. Now, just a note that updating and rebuilding these compendiums will not affect or change existing actors, such as NPCs, players, and mechs that you've created. Once you've dragged something out onto an actor, it is as if a copy was made. This also means that if you do update the compendiums from the manager, it will not update any existing actors and their items. Understanding this relationship is key to knowing where to make changes and if you need to rebuild your LCP data that it should be safe to do that without disrupting the actors you've already created. Now we're ready to create NPCs, import player characters from CompCon, and set up a scene. So let's make an NPC. In general, NPCs are usually unlinked actors. Unlinked actors are designed as a kind of template of an actor that can be dragged onto the scene multiple times and track their stats and conditions specific to the token on the scene without updating the actor itself. Boss NPCs that are unique or player-controlled actors are examples of linked actors. Changes to a linked actor's token are reflected and tracked in the actor itself. Typically, I prepare for an encounter by creating the NPCs that the encounter calls for and creating copies of them on the scene. Let's make an NPC we can use. We're going to open the following compendiums because we're going to drag items out of them onto our new Assault NPC. So we're going to open up NPC class, NPC features, and NPC template. We need a new actor, so in the top right, click the Actors tab. And we're going to make a new actor with a type of NPC. And it's an assault enemy, so let's name it Assault. Next, we're going to drag the Assault item out of the NPC class compendium and drop it onto the new NPC actor sheet. Now, at this point, you could just use the NPC as it is and drag it onto scenes to build your encounter. If you're running a pre-made adventure, you might see something that reads out 1 veteran assault and in parentheses underslung grenade launcher. So in that case, we need to update this actor with some other information. So we need an underslung grenade launcher. We'll search for that in the NPC feature compendium. And then we'll drag this onto the actor sheet as well. And you can see we've added an underslung grenade launcher to this NPC. Another thing that we need to create is it has a veteran template assigned to it that modifies the NPC. So in the NPC templates, we can take the veteran and drag it onto as a template. Now you have a veteran assault NPC with an underslung grenade launcher ready to go. When we set up a scene, we'll drag some of these out and place them. Now, importing PCs from CompCon. I'm not going to cover CompCon in great detail here, and I assume that your players have made pilots in CompCon already. Be sure that your players have synced their pilots in CompCon to the cloud and generated a new share code for you. First, we'll need to make a Foundry player real quick. Just like when we launched this world and we picked Game Master to log in, your players will log in with their player name, and this is how we assign actors to them so that they can control and update them on their own. In the Game Settings tab in the upper right, click the User Management button. Here you can add players who will be participating in your game world. Let's add a user named Mitch with no password and a user role of player. We're going to hit Save and Return. All right. Now what I prefer to do is create an actor folder for each player. And players may have a few actors they can reference, and this allows setting for permissions easily and making sure you and they can easily find all their actors. At a minimum, players will probably have a single pilot and a mech to control, but you may also place actors in here to stand in for deployables, secondary mechs, etc. So in the Actors tab in the upper right, we're going to create a folder, and we're going to give it the name Mitch. Now I'm going to color this folder bright green so you can more easily see in some later steps what is inside the folder and what is not. And on the folder named Mitch, there's a little actor icon with a plus sign. Let's click that to make a placeholder actor in the folder. The name will be overwritten during the import, so we can just call this Mitch, just like the player name. But we need to make sure the type is pilot. Once created, the new pilot actor sheet will open up and we can start an import. Let's click the rm-4://sync tab. Here you can put in a share code, and once you have the code input, we're gonna get one from CompCon. And once you've put that in there, you need to click outside the field, and then you can click the download button, this greater than //. This will create the pilot and any mechs and deployables in the appropriate folder. So we can see here that we have a pilot, Rui, and we have the mech, Hour of the Wolf. And those are now imported and they're inside Mitch's folder. Now we can right-click the folder and select Configure Ownership. We're going to change Mitch to owner and save the permissions. Now Mitch will be the owner of all things in their folder. You have player mechs that can be placed in the scene now as well. The next thing we're going to do is set up a scene. Let's select the Scenes tab in the top right and create a new scene. You can name it anything you like. It's possible to have a player-facing name that's different from the name that you'll see as the GM if you need that. For now, we're going to use a normal grid of squares, and if you want to use hexes, feel free. I hope to cover some modules at a later date that will go over using hexes specifically, but for now, squares are okay and Lancer supports both well. Let's add a background image. This is basically going to be the map that we're playing on. All right, so this example map is 2,800 by 2,800 pixels, and Lancer recommends maps no larger than 40 by 40 spaces. The default grid size is 100 pixels, so this gives us roughly a 27 by 27 space map. That's reasonable for a medium to large size map. We might want to make the grid a little more visible by making it yellow in color, for example. Let's also disable token vision and fog exploration in the lighting section of the scene configuration. You may want to really dig into vision settings to automate line of sight, sensors, etc. Maybe I will do a vision focus video to cover that, but for now we're going to go with the normal Lancer approach that the entire map is visible to all players. Maybe mechs are visible to some pilots, but the players and the GM all see the whole map, much like a tabletop gaming experience. All right, we're going to be running a control sit rep for this example. Again, in the spirit of Lancer, players need to know the mechanics of the mission so they can try to succeed. Part of that is knowing where they need to be on the map and what they're getting scored on. We're going to need an enemy ingress and deploy zone, a player deploy zone, and some control areas defined. We can use Foundry's drawing tools to lay these down on top of the map quite easily. On the left-hand side, we can select the pencil icon for the drawing tools. We're going to use the square drawing tool to create rectangles for zones. We're going to start by just drawing a square. And then we're going to double click on the newly made square to set it up as the enemy deploy zone. Now I tend to make the enemy zones for ingress red and label them for everyone to read. So we're going to set all the colors for the lines to red. And we're going to set line stroke color to red and opacity to 0.2. We don't want this to be so dominating that people can't see the map underneath it. We're going to set a solid fill type. Again, we're going to do it red. And we're going to set the fill opacity we'll set this to 0.1. We want this to be almost impossible to see. Now for the text label, we're going to call this enemy ingress / deploy zone. We're going to make the text color red again. And we're going to leave the text, we're going to make this at 1 for readability. So here you can see we have this deploy zone. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move it to where we want to place it on the map. All right. So we have our ingress deploy zone. Let's choose the select drawings icon in the upper left. We're going to select the current zone. We're going to hit Control-C to make a copy. And then with this copy, we're going to double click it and we're going to make this into the player deploy zone. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the color to be green. But we're going to keep everything else pretty much the same as far as the opacities for all of these. And then we're going to change the name to say player deploy zone. And let's change this color also to green. Then we click Update Drawing. Now we have a player deploy zone, and we can drag this to the other end of the map. All right. Now we need control zones. I usually make these blue, and since they're so large, I want to make them less obvious but still visible. So we'll forego the fill for these squares. In a traditional control, there are 4 zones, so I'm going to make a new one. And we're going to make the colors, for this one, we're going to pick blue. We're going to set line opacity to 0.2, fill none. We're going to change our text to be also blue. And we're going to call this one Control Alpha. And much like the previous, we're going to select this, Control Z, Control V. We have a second one. We're going to call this Beta. Control V again. We can have a Delta. And one more Control V. And we'll call this one Gamma. Now it's just a matter of dragging these into the places that we want them. So that it is obvious to the players where the control zones are that they need to be in order to successfully complete this sitrep. You can make these kind of be anywhere you want to, but usually they're equally sized. I may not have them perfect here. But once you have these basics down, you should be able to fiddle with all of these things to your preferences and lay down over top of maps as you want. Now we can drag actors out from the map. If you want to have your reinforcements ready to go, a little trick is you can hold down Alt and drag out some to keep near your deploy zone in the buffer area around the map so that they're easily ready to set visible according to Foundry and drag onto the map. Maybe we'll put a few more of these on the map. And then down in the player zone, we can put our mech for our player. All right, go play. Sure, there's no bells and whistles, but with just Foundry, the Lancer system, and the core rulebook LCP, you can be up and overheating mechs in no time. Thank you.